I was, I enjoyed the music, it was lovely, and I especially enjoyed your prayer, Gail. Because it leads into what I was planning to do anyway. I'm going to be talking about listening and focusing, and a lot of different things like that. But I want to start with a reading of one of my favorite sections from Ernest Holmes. It's in his book, This Thing Called You, which is often much more comprehensible and clear than the textbook, though textbook has nuggets too. So you might even want to close your eyes and just really listen to this few sentences. You belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life. You are as much a part of it as the sun, the earth, and the air. There is something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountaintop of inward vision, like a light whose origin no one has seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. That sense of belonging, of being centered in something that we may not be able to put words to, is the filter, the view of things that I want you to hold present in your awareness as we talk about listening beyond the noise of the world. So when you are ready to come back and see things, please do. So you probably noticed there is a lot of noise in the world, even before you turn on your news report or CNN or whatever it is that you watch. And a lot of that is available an amazing amount of time every day. Phones and news and devices and opinions and events. And as a community, a teaching that believes that underneath all of it, there is something sacred, some flow, some divinity, despite all of the conditions in the world. How do we hold both of those? How do we stay tuned to the wonder and the awe, even as we notice the day-to-day, whether it's a toddler screaming or some event in the world, or simply that you forgot something and now you have to make do without it, those little pricks of life. And so that's what we're going to be looking at this morning. And the question of whether we actually miss something when we get so caught up in the noise. So, since we're a small group, I'd love to hear from you externally. What are sources of noise or noises that you notice in your day-to-day?
And if you could repeat what someone
Yes,
said.
absolutely. Yeah. What are some noise sources? Yes.
Opinions.
Opinions. What else? Yes.
I get a lot in my dream state.
Lots of noise in dream state. Okay. Other items. What's noise in your life?
News. The news.
The news. Yep.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Rumor mill.
What's that?
Rumor mill.
Rumor mill. What about birds or waves crashing on the shore? Is that noise?
Presence.
Presence noise. Okay. So cats. Yeah.
Our cat notifies us when he uses the litter box, no matter if it's 3 a.m, because he knows we like to scoop it right away.
So she has a cat who lets them know when he's used the litter box so that it can immediately be cleaned up 24/7. So that's some noise in the world. Now, there's an even more interesting question. A more active source of noise is actually internal. Where does noise come from within you? Self-criticism. Self-criticism?
Internal value.
Internal babble? Okay.
in the narrative.
What do you mean by in the narrative, Doug? Say more.
Kind of, sort of the inner critic, but not exactly, just an ongoing commentary about whatever.
Okay, so there's something in each of us that kind of makes a story about what's going on, or has comments about it, whether they be judgments or critiques, or celebrations of something.
All of that.
Yeah. One more, what's another internal source?
Music.
Music. And so you hear music within you, but lovely.
That, tinnitus.
There is also ringing in the ears, yes. So. It's very important, I think, a lot of the time we hear something on the news, or a relative tells us something's happened, and we react, and it catches us up, and we almost lose sight of ourselves. And we blame the event. Something has happened, and we say, oh, they shut down the freeway again, that's ridiculous. Well, we don't know this if we have a story that we're listening to within about what it means that they shut down the freeway. And that's actually the piece that I invite you to be more conscious of, and we're going to be talking more about that. But as you see an event, take a pause and see what events say about that event, rather than just the freeway exit will be closed from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. 5 days a week next week. Okay. Do you need to have a story about that? Do you need to have something circulating in your head around that freeway exit being closed? One of the very cool things about this teaching is that we recognize that we get to choose our thoughts. I was listening to a Taoist this morning, and he had this really interesting commentary. He said, in the morning, when you first wake up, I'll ask you a question before I say what he said. How many of you, the moment you wake up, start thinking about what you have to do in the day? Good. I'm glad that we're in the minority. Because the mind is a tool. And this was the phrase that Charles shared this morning. We either use the mind to plan our day, or the mind plans our reactions for us. We get to choose how we respond and show up, and what we say about the world, and what we plan to do in the world, or the mind plans something anyway. Oh my gosh, I've got to drive 2 hours up to Mendocino. I better get things in gear, and I better put my this up and ready to go and get some guy good up. Tara, take a breath. Your mind is running away with you and telling you all kinds of things. And in fact, as I know this, by the time I get in the car, it all flows. My mind has a sense of how the world is, which is I've got to protect Tara from all the things that could happen. And my inner being knows I belong in this world. I'm as much a part of the all this as the sun or the ocean or all the other beings. And that's the undergirding being that you need to listen to be able to be aware of what's going on in the world, not say, oh well, everything's fine, everything's wonderful, see any problems in all this, no. Because that's not realistic in today's very connected world. Maybe if you were off in a cabin with nothing flying overhead, no connections to anything, you could maybe isolate yourself and not have to worry about the stories that you're making up about what's going on in the world. But you can also choose how you look at things. And then what's yours to do. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment. I'm going to take you through a little exercise. And all you need to do as your eyes are closed, is notice when your mind wanders off and bring it back to center. You don't need to be upset with yourself that you can't hold attention, but when your mind wanders off, come back to center. That is just a thought. Another thought, come back to center. Thinking, come back to center. That simple practice of shifting your attention and focusing will train you to do more choosing what stories you're listening to and choosing what knowings you're aware of. It's not easy. I think the last time I heard a couple of years ago, we have about the same attention span nowadays as goldfish. Because we're so used to so many different things coming at us in short little bits and pieces that we're not used to paying attention over time. Which is another reason to meditate, to learn how to come into stillness and listen to what happens. We lose a bunch when we're constantly in noise and story. We lose clarity. When I'm upset by something, I forget that there's a knowing inside of me that can resolve and bring me back to alignment with what I love. So I'm so stirred up by something, so I must clear. I cease to be present. My boot on my left foot, where I stumbled and sprained it badly, was because rather than paying attention to what I was doing, walking, I decided I needed to take the car keys out of my purse. So I missed a step and crashed. I wasn't present. And the lovely irony that I tell on myself is my affirmation for this month on my medicine mirror in the bathroom. I am present and pay attention to what matters. 10 years ago, I was, Tara, for heaven's sake, you're a minister. What are you thinking? I just go, oh, sweetheart. Yep, you're human just like everybody else. You'll learn. You'll get it. Because the story of how flawed and inadequate and not good enough that we sometimes tell ourselves when, Tara, you've been affirming being present all month. What are you thinking? Doesn't help. Hearing that in my head makes me feel worse, not better. Hearing, take a breath, pause, I'll be present myself. It's way, way. Even though I must admit that I still, if I could kick myself at the moment, I can't. But if I could kick myself, I would say, come on, Tara. So, in this busy, noisy world, we've forgotten in many ways how to listen. My daughter taught me something about listening over the last few months. I think some of you know she's gone through a pretty serious illness. And she's much better now. But she ended up setting up a blog for How's Erica? Because she got sick and tired of hearing everybody ask, how are you? Are you okay? So instead, she said, I don't want to hear all of that. How are you? This is what you should do. This is how you fix it. This is the best doctor to go to. I just want to be able to share when I want to share and not have to listen to all this other stuff. So last night she came to me with an issue she had. And the mama in me really wanted to help her fix it, make it right, tell her what to do. And thankfully, having listened to her talk about how she wants to communicate with her friends, but not get lost in all of their stories and their worries, I just let her tell me what was going on and listen. And at some point I asked her if there was anything that she would like me to do. And that was it. So that listening, not to what you expect people to need or say. How many of you have interrupted someone you're talking with, because you know what they're gonna say, so you finish their sentence for them? Yeah. None of you do that? How often were you wrong? I'll talk to now and then, you know, I think they're going off in this direction, oh no, they want to talk about this. But I was so sure, I knew what they were gonna say, I didn't need to hear it. Notice things like that, and again, laugh at yourself. You go, oh, gosh, how can you do that? You know better. Everybody knows better about everything, but we still make mistakes. Because that's just the way it is sometimes. You know, I don't know why this comes up, but I'm so rambling today, but it's been interesting. There was a coach who was brought into some college football team who had lost, I think, all but one of its games of the last season. And he started turning it around. And eventually, he had turned it around so much that maybe they won 50% of the games, and next time they were battling for the championship the next season. And so they asked him, so they had all kinds of problems. How did you get rid of their problems? How did you teach them how to catch things or throw things or whatever the problems were? And he said, I didn't do any of that. I noticed what they were doing well and help them make those gifts even better. Rather than, oh my gosh, you don't know how to carry a ball, we gotta fix that. You're great at noticing who passed it, let's get you even better at that. Or whatever it was. And it's the same thing with you. I could give you as I did the other day as part of an exercise, a laundry list of all the things I should have done by now in my goodness, I'm in my 70s. And about 2 minutes into making that list, I got really fed up with myself. Well, yeah, that's true. You should have done blah, blah, blah. Tara, you've done a bunch of really cool things in your life. And I know every single one of you that's also true for you. It's absolutely also true for you. So when you notice all the noise in your head, because it's not just the external world, it's the internal world. Remember what your intention is. Remember what your orientation is. Not to ignore a challenge or a problem, as you know, I talked a couple weeks ago about moving into them and growing, but to keep yourself centered, aligned, grounded in that fundamental essence. It does make a difference to pause and catch yourself before you react to what you just said. A friend of mine years ago, we were both in not-for-profits, and she was telling me some of her woes, but then she said, you know, the other day, we were working on this team project and we needed to get out to the grant makers. It was running late because one of the team members messed up. He did something that probably put us back 2 or 3 days. And so someone in the team meeting really complained about this person. I think his name was Jim. It's like, oh man, Jim, this is falling apart. You're never gonna be able to do it. And she said, I could watch him just getting more and more defensive and about to just, I'm sorry, I blew it there, which would only have made everything worse because he would be resonating with what he was hearing from the colleague who was so upset with him. Instead, he took a breath. And she said she could see him kind of composing himself and taking it in. Then the first thing he did was to say, you're right, I blew it. I made a mistake. I did more than I really should have taken it on myself. I didn't ask for help. And I've been thinking about it, And I came up with a way that we could get caught up at least a couple of days if you listen to the plan that I figured out that would get us back on track. Whole room change. Because rather than react, he listened to what he was hearing. He had himself thought about the screw up, not just that, oh, well, I'm perfect, home, we read all the time, so it doesn't matter. And come up with something that would keep the two moving. Which is a lovely way to listen and respond. Yesterday, as I mentioned to some of you, I had the opportunity to facilitate a memorial for a friend of mine. She was one of the staff ministers at our center. And she was someone who was very private. I had many Chinese meals with her, mainly lunches. And we talked about things in general, but I realized as I was trying to write her eulogy, I didn't really know what mattered to her. Because she was someone that was always in a role with a variety of different services and groups, and they loved her, but we didn't really see and know her. So what I did was I ended up having different people from 3 or 4 of the groups she served and her brother come talk about her. And what happened was I noticed that each of us had glimpses of who she was. And that kaleidoscope that came together showed us all of who she was in a way that was filled with love and generosity. My point on this is there are a variety of ways to speak and be heard. And they don't always take words. They're not always Reverend Joyce saying, I love to da 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 da. It's important to me because she was grounded in the homeschools, that she belonged. She had a role and she had a value and she was sourced in spirit. But she didn't always talk that. She just went and did what she did, aligned with who she was. So that's another way to listen that's really, really important. To notice how people are, not just what they say. There's one other thing I want to share. How many of you sit and watch the waves at the shore? I would imagine almost all of you, because you've got the beach right out there. What do you listen to? What do you listen to when you're out at the beach? Seagulls. Seagulls. Waves. What's that?
Black oyster culture, yeah.
Black oyster catchers, yes.
Wind.
Wind.
Rhythm.
Rhythm. And what do you see?
Light.
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 Color. Color.
Colored. The waves. The waves. Movement. Movement. What do you see when you look at the water?
Ever-changing form and forms.
Ever-changing form and formless.
Color.
Always. You notice how it is, regardless of the waves, it all just breathes. If you haven't, have a look. That's one of the places that all of you have mentioned in different ways where you listen and notice and are present with nature. And that presence, that awareness, the listening to the birds and the waves and the wind and the seeing helps you to know that which is not knowable, that allness, that isness, that presence. Just as a group. So this has rambled all over the place, and I I'm very aware of that. And yet, I think perhaps the point of all of it is that we live in this amazingly complex, very challenging, beautiful, joy-filled, disastrous, alike, dark environment. And somehow we make sense of it. With stories, with what we hear, what's going on within us, what's going on around us. And my invitation to you is to, in moments, to explore that, not just with silence, which is how we often think things must be when we listen, but in stillness. There's this marvelous difference between silence, which is the absence of noise, and for me at least, stillness, which is being sweetly, gently present. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, simply present. So I'm going to close with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. And I'm going to first say to all of you that perhaps the most important thing I would invite you to do is to notice the voices within you that are focusing on what's wrong and the problems and the challenges and the criticisms and the comparisons. Notice those voices. And I don't think you can shut them up, but I invite mine to play in the sandbox and I'll get back to them when they have time. And then notice and listen for the stories that you tell yourself that are good, or the song of the bird, or the whisper of the waves, or a child singing, and pay attention to those. Intend that you are not ignoring the challenges of the world, but that you are grounded in the good, whether it takes 6 weeks to show up, 6 years, or 6 millennia, that you know that there is an unfolding, and trust that even in the midst of the noise. Here's Ram Dass in closing. In this silence, the silence that lies behind thought, one can hear the symphony of the universe. One can hear the whisper of the word. One can approach the inner temple wherein dwells the soul. That essence, that part of who we are, that's always available. Choose that mood. Choose that story, that truth, and be grounded and centered in that one. And gently I invite you to listen to this prayer. There is one inescapable presence that is absolutely all that is. Though it at times seems far away, that is only because of the story I'm telling myself. It is right here, right now, in this present moment, guiding, creating, loving, delighting, all of those qualities of the infinite and more. in each and every place, in each and every moment. Spirit is present. Knowing this, I know that it is the essence of who I am. The joy, the tenderness, creativity, compassion, all of that in me. And I know that is also true for every single person hearing this word and beyond. There is within each of us a unique version of spirit, expressing moment to moment to moment. In deep gratitude for this abundance, for the way in which it offers me centering, guidance, delight, even laughter. We simply say thank you. Releasing this word into law, into love, and into life. I let it be. And so it
It is.
So it is.
So it is.